In Paris, in the 1920s, a myriad of languages was spoken. Elegant ladies from all over the world flocked to the French capital to shop to their heart's content. The city, a veritable crossroads of influences, drew inspiration from the most diverse sources. But if there was one country whose charms enchanted high society, it was China. Shanghai was on everyone's lips. The exotic name made people dream, and it inspired and offered a repertoire of new forms to designers. In the workshop of the Lacloche brothers, traditional Chinese know-how influenced the most ambitious Art Deco creations. A door had opened onto a new world, a world that accompanied women in their desire for novelty and innovation. You're listening to Voice of Jewels, a podcast from L'École, School of Jewelry Arts, supported by Van Cleef Arpels, unveiling the stories and secrets behind history's most fascinating jewels. It all started with a visit to the Lacloche brothers' boutique. The reputation of these jewelers had already spread outside Paris to all of Europe and even across the Atlantic. But I had yet to visit. The boutique was located on the Rue de la Paix, a stone's throw from the Opera, very close to the Place Vendôme. Its facade, in marble, granite, and chiseled bronze, was breathtaking. On entering, I was struck by the finesse of the woodwork and the unique presentation of pearls and many different kinds of jewelry, imbued with a distinctive Art Deco style.
La Cloche Maison 由国际知名的珠宝商
The La Cloche Maison was founded in 1875 in Paris by the renowned international jeweler Léopold Lacloche and his brothers.
Xiaojia WANG, art historian and lecturer at L'École School of Jewelry Arts.
他们不仅是珠宝商
They were not just jewelers. They were visionaries and alchemists of style. Their creations were more than mere adornments. They were portals to another world. The Lacloche brothers had a reputation that stretched far beyond Paris. Their designs were whispered about in the salons of London, the ballrooms of New York, and the palaces of Monte Carlo. But what truly set them apart was their ability to weave the mystic of the Orient into their work. In the 1920s, Paris was obsessed with China. The city was captivated by the allure of Shanghai, the elegance of Chinese art, and the spiritual depth of its traditions. And the Lacloche brothers, they were at the forefront of this fascination.
他们正是这股潮流的引领者
The salespeople were scurrying about advising and informing customers. I took my time to look around. Suddenly, a lone object, placed on a console at the back of the premises, caught my eye. From a distance, it resembled a small altar, closed by two doors. Made of gold and jade, its surface was as smooth as marble. Red on one side, black on the other. A discreet ornamental motif. A large ideogram clearly invoked China and the Orient. This object awakened something very deep inside me. Perhaps an ancient memory reminding me of the objects once collected by my grandmother. But not only that, I saw in it the promise of another world.
La Cloche Frères的精品店
Their boutique was a treasure trove of wonders. Imagine walking in and being greeted by the soft glow of jade, the shimmer of lacquer, and the intricate carvings of Chinese-inspired motifs. But here's the twist. The Lacloche brothers weren't just borrowing from Chinese culture. They were reinventing it. Their creations were a bold fusion of East and West, a daring hybrid that captured the spirit of the times. They took the traditional and made it modern, Their jewelry wasn't just worn, it was
一种
experienced.
跨越时空的感官之旅。
A jumble of daydreams played in my head. At the time, my father wanted to arrange my marriage. I was against it. I aspired to another life. As a child, I had read Jules Verne and dreamed of traveling to far-off lands while poring over atlases of the world. A young salesman approached to offer his assistance. I had already been in the boutique for several minutes, motionless, lost in contemplation of this red and black object whose pure lines soothed and reassured me. The young man, respectful of my reverie, simply opened the doors of this miniature temple, rather aptly entitled Imperial Doors. Inside, I discovered other small compartments and drawers. This one is for eyeshadow and powder. That one is for lipstick, he explained. In other words, this little altar was dedicated to the rituals of beauty, a modern beauty. Back then, I had cut my hair short, I smoked, and the opinion of others mattered little to me. More than anything, I wanted this object.
1920年代的世界
It's the 1920s, and the world is changing. This is the era of the new woman, a woman who is bold, independent. Chinese women, especially in cosmopolitan cities like Shanghai, embrace the trend, and iconic figures like actress Wan Lingyu popularized the short bob, making it a hallmark of the modern new woman in China. And at the heart of this revolution, a small, exquisitely crafted object, vanity case, the beauty kit. These weren't just functional objects. They were symbols of liberation, refinement, and a new kind of femininity. La Cloche understood this. Their beauty kits were more than just pretty boxes. They were cultural artifacts, infused with the spirit of the times. In a time of upheaval and transformation, La Cloche didn't just follow the trends. They set them. And in doing so, they helped define what it meant to be a modern woman in the 20th century.
20世纪现代女性的内涵。
A few days earlier, I had received an invitation to the Chinese ball that my friend, the Princess Myriad, was to host at the Opera Garnier. The invitation was decorated with Chinese characters. It was a fortuitous coincidence. I drew a little closer to the box. More than its secret drawers, it was this material covering the doors of the palace that I yearned to touch. Its reflections were infinitely delicate. I could see the outline of my face mirrored in it, like a gentle shadow. The young man told me that this material was known as lacquer. "What's that?" I asked him. "The mysteries of the Orient," he answered evasively, before correcting himself. "We work with craftsmen from Indochina who make these lacquers." The salesman explained that these craftsmen applied very thin layers of resin that they then sanded and polished indefinitely to give the object its remarkable luster. During the war, this know-how had been used to protect airplane propellers from the elements. Nowadays, people prefer to make lacquer boxes, magnificent objects that delighted the gaze. He continued.
装饰艺术 Art Deco
Art Deco, as a design movement, was deeply influenced by the craftsmanship and materials from China. During the 1920s, French artists and designers were captivated by the exotic allure of Chinese art and culture. They began incorporating elements such as jade, engraved stones, and lacquer into their jewelry and decorative objects. This was not just a passing trend. It was a deliberate embrace of Chinese aesthetics, which offered a fresh and sophisticated perspective that resonated with the modern sensibilities of the time. The use of jade in particular became a hallmark of many Art Deco pieces. Its smooth, cool surface and rich, deep colors were unlike anything European artisans had traditionally worked with. Similarly, lacquer, with its glossy finish and intricate layering process, became a sought-after material for creating high-end objects. These materials were not just decorative. They carried with them a sense of history and tradition, connecting the modern world to the ancient craftsmanship of China.
Sir, I said finally, I would very much like to acquire this object. Alas, madam, this is a special order. It is going to join the collection of one of our customers. I left the Lacloche Brothers boutique terribly disappointed not to have been able to purchase the imperial doors. This disappointment affected me more than I would have thought. That same night, my dreams were filled with mandarins, Chinese princesses, and high priests who all turned a deaf ear to my request. Proof that my thoughts were now strictly focused on China.
This fascination with Chinese art was part of a broader trend in Paris during the 1920s. The city was a melting pot of cultures, and Chinese influences were everywhere, from fashion to architecture. The Art Deco movement, with its emphasis on geometric shapes and luxurious materials, was perfectly suited to incorporate these exotic elements. It was a time when the boundaries between East and West were becoming increasingly blurred, and the result was a rich, hybrid style that continues to captivate us today.
So, I continued with my quest, or should I say, my metamorphosis. I first visited Mr. Lu's, a Chinese merchant who had settled in Paris at the start of the 20th century, and who sold all kinds of wonders. His business was so successful that to accommodate the many bargain hunters who came to discover his treasures, he had an entire pagoda built on the Plaine Monceau. This was the beginning of my initiatory journey. Mr. Lu was a secretive and elegant man. He showed me his treasures: ceramics, Buddhas, manuscripts, precious furniture. I admired silk fabrics covered with flowers. I thought of making a new dress and trying on a new style, freeing myself from the shackles and corsets, in a quest for the supple lines of those great designers who had finally liberated women's bodies, like Paul Poiret, first and foremost.
The 1920s were not just a time when Chinese art influenced the West. It was also a period of significant cultural exchange in the opposite direction. As Westerners brought back Chinese art and design, they also introduced their own styles and ideas to China. Shanghai, with its bustling streets and vibrant nightlife, became a symbol of modernity and sophistication. Its architecture, with its sleek lines and bold geometric forms, was a perfect reflection of the Art Deco style. Western designers who visited the city were inspired by its energy and its unique blend of traditional Chinese elements with modern design. This influence can be seen in the work of many French designers of the time, who began to incorporate Chinese motifs and materials into their creations, such as Cartier or Van Cleef and Arpels.
The day of the ball at the opera was an apotheosis. I had finally informed my father that I did not want to get married. I put on a few drops of the perfume Nuit de Chine with its notes of incense and spices. I enjoyed an innovative Oriental-themed performance called A Coromandel Dream. Prince Aram of Capertala played the role of God, the Princess de la Tour d'Auvergne, a seated priestess, and the Countess of Montesquieu, a reclining goddess. The painter Jean-Gabriel Domergue had designed the sets. The costumes were by Boulanger and Louis, Cherouille and Madeleine Vionnet. And what costumes! The Marquise de Polignac wore a cellophane dress, sprinkled with silver sequins and crystal ornaments.
从许多方面来看，
In many ways, the 1920s were a time of opening doors, both literal and metaphorical. The vanity case, porte impériale, imperial doors in English, were not just a beautiful object. They were a symbol of this broader cultural exchange. They represented the possibility of new worlds, new ideas, and new ways of seeing.
与新视角的可能性。
I think it was on this very evening that I promised myself I would one day go and discover China for once and for all, and finally open the imperial doors, which I ended up doing. But that's another story. Voice of Jewels, a podcast from L'École, School of Jewelry Arts, supported by Van Cleef and Arpels. With Xiaojia Wang, art historian and lecturer at L'École School of Jewelry Arts. Written by Martin Quenehen and Aram Kebabdjian. Performed by Gina and Douglas and produced by Bababam.